Ladies and gentlemen from beyond the great waterfall, welcome. I am Atlas Pleiades, and welcome back. A new audio-visual record of events has been released at last. Meaning, ReZero Season 4, Episode 12 is finally upon us after the hiatus that we have been waiting for to be over for the past couple months. Not only has Season 4 returned, but so have I. I am not done with the middle of my move, I'm still dealing with that right now, but I do intend to try to be as timely as possible with these episodes as we go on further. So, without further ado, I say we jump right into the episode discussion. Anime onlys, manga readers, light novel readers, web novel readers, welcome as always. Let's jump right in to Season 4, Episode 12. The episode immediately jumps right into where we had left off last time, with Subaru stating that he's back. And when he wakes up, as always in this checkpoint, both Emilia and Beatrice express concern for Subaru's state, seeing as they, on their end, had just found him, essentially, and made sure he was okay. And when Subaru looks at Beatrice, he immediately gets emotional, giving her a hug and breaking down crying. And Emilia expresses concern, the both of them do. And we see that Subaru is crying, and Emilia wraps her arms around the both of them and comforts him. Of course, Subaru reacting to Beatrice is likely due to exactly how she died in the last episode, so it makes sense how emotional he got now that he understands that everybody does care about him. The opening plays before we cut back to the dining room that they've been eating in, and Subaru basically just apologizes for having lost his memories. And this time around, Rom calls him out right in front of everybody, and basically is like, hey, what is with this farce? And Subaru and Emilia and Beatrice all reassure her this is no farce, not whatsoever, even if it may seem like he's taking this not very seriously. The reality is, yes, he has lost his memories. Meili states the thing she always states, and of course, as soon as Subaru looks at her face, he is reminded of what he, or the other Natsuki Subaru, did to her in the previous episode. Correction, 3 episodes ago. She teases him for having looked like he's seen a ghost, before asking him what exactly he actually forgot, and Subaru basically explains that it's like having an episodic memory. He remembers the names of people and things for the most part, but the actual experiences that he had with those people and things, he doesn't really have much memory of, if any at all. Meili, of course, asks if that includes yesterday, which Subaru hesitates for a second before basically saying yes, he doesn't remember a thing from yesterday. The other characters express basically the same way that they did in any other loop, and Echidna mentions that there's likely, of course, a trap within the tower that likely caused this. And Subaru agrees and explains, that probably is in the Taygeta library where I was found. And when he states Emilia-chan, she seems to get sad and states chan in a sad voice because, of course, Subaru calls her Emilia-tan. Subaru says that they should take a break and that he's gonna help Rom go fetch the water since it looks like she was about to ask him anyway. And so they proceed to go around getting water just like they did in other loops, and once again there's a confrontation. Rom assuming that Subaru called her out so he could explain to her what's going on in private, but he just reiterates that no, he actually has lost his memories, which of course pisses her off once again. Their back and forth gets to the point again where Rom has Subaru pinned to the wall, saying that he had forgotten Rem and what good is he gonna do, and he is still adamant about saving Rem and getting her memories back and basically doing everything that they came to the tower to do, and ends up reversing their positions on each other, pinning her against the wall and deeply expressing that no, he will right these wrongs, he will fix this, and that if he gives up, she's got full permission to do whatever the hell she feels like to him, be it harming him in any regard, punishing him in any regard. He accepts that fate wholeheartedly. He says that in doing so, it would be good punishment for making her cry, which she slaps him for. She states that she never cried and that a promise from him is laughable at best, and he expresses how many promises that he had broken, and she basically responds in kind of how many promises has he actually kept, which he expresses disdain at that being an easier number to count, and he asks why did they even bother bringing him to the tower in the first place. She basically says that he butted in like he always does, and that he basically was just good for odd jobs here and there, and he lists off a few reasons why he's pretty much useless, and she agrees. However, she adds at the end with a much more warm tone that he also cared about Rem, and we can see that that's clearly enough for her. She makes sure that he really lost his memories of Rem, but still vows to get her back, and of course he agrees to this, and so they start walking back to the dining hall, and as they do, he asks if Natsuki Subaru really was here, and she says he's always been here, essentially, he's just invisible right now, but when the time is right, he'll make his appearance once again. And it's a nice little sweet moment between Ram and Subaru that I definitely think we've needed for a while now. He expresses that everything's going to happen again soon, referring to all the destruction that will befall the tower before long. So he decides to tackle one of the most important problems first that hasn't quite been solved yet. He peers over where he kept getting pushed off and recounts that first time that he fell before he takes a deep breath, and right before the perpetrator can push him off, he dodges to the side and grabs their hand. Subaru lightly teasing them, saying, "Don't go taking that fall in my place." We get to see who was behind this the entire time. And the person who kept pushing Subaru off the tower was none other than Meili Portrout herself. She tries to play it off, saying that if she was gonna kill him, wouldn't it have made more sense for her to have done it outside? And Subaru says, well, sure, if of course the decision wasn't last minute. Meili decided to kill him after the events that happened the night prior, essentially. And she basically says, oh, so this was just a setup the entire time? You never lost your memories? And he's like, yeah, no, I still lost my memories. So Meili's like, well then, how do you plan on finishing me off? I don't have my witch beast, so it shouldn't really be all that difficult. But of course, Subaru's not going to do that, which Meili has a hard time believing. He expresses essentially that she never actually went through with it because she didn't succeed, therefore really they don't need to worry about it. But if she still has some form of murderous intent toward him, that maybe they should just sit down and talk it over. She expresses that what's bothering her is this situation right now. How could he have possibly known what exactly it is she was trying to do? And he basically just expresses that all it was an impulse. She has no other way of solving her problems because she doesn't know any better. That murder is a habit, and that sets her off. What could he possibly know about her in any way? He knows nothing about what she's been through or who she is. And he corrects her, of course, saying that no, he, as creepily as it sounds, probably knows her better than anybody else in the world does. He states that Elsa's death, essentially, is the reason why she tried to kill him. This causes Meili to start crying, as she states that she won't let anybody pretend to know who she is, and jumps off down the tower, before we're treated to more flashback stuff regarding her life. A lot of what we see here is basically just stuff we'd already saw in the Books of the Dead with a little bit more content added in, but more so from Meili's emotional perspective rather than just a more narration perspective. We actually get to see how she felt about things and what was going on in her mind. And after Elsa had picked her up, she of course was still pretty feral as a person, having been raised by witch beasts, But we learned that the rags that she prefers to wear, rather than quote-unquote proper frilly clothes, had her name stitched into the rags. Whether that's her actual name or just a name off of the rags that she had maybe perhaps stolen from someone is left to be unknown. However, Elsa decides that she will call this girl Maylee because it would be inconvenient to not have something to refer to her by. She saw Elsa as a disgusting woman, however, she saw every job through and modeled everything she did after Elsa. Her speech, the clothes that she wore, all of it, she modeled after Elsa and kept that all a secret from her as well. We see Elsa telling Maylee to braid her hair because she can't be bothered, and Maylee once again ends up biting into her, which just continues to tickle Elsa because the biting really doesn't do much to her. As we see Maylee braid Elsa's hair, she basically monologues in her head about how important Elsa had become in her life. She was a big part of her life, as detestable as that woman was. So, if all that had to be exposed, if it had to be trampled on, if Elsa Grandhjart had to be killed, then Maylee Portrout, and it cuts back to Maylee dangling right above falling from the tower, Subaru having grabbed her hand and hanging on for dear life with his whip. She says that it would have been better if he would have just let her end it, and he's like, I get that. But it's not the Natsuki family way. We just barge right into the hearts of others. And he states that it's probably vengeance that drove her to do what she did, and she's not entirely sure. But he states that Elsa probably wouldn't have wanted that, and she says that she knows that. She asks why does he keep trying to help her, and he just says that he's already lost all his memories. It would be pretty bad if he lost another thing too. He expresses that he understands that she doesn't know what to do with her feelings and that she probably won't be able to find the answers right away, but he asks her to let him help, and he'll do everything he can to at least make sure things don't go badly. As he says this, we see ice going down the stairs before going under their feet, allowing them to have a platform to stand on so they don't fall to their deaths. She has a hard time believing him, and so Subaru says, well, then that's simple. Don't consider it a promise between me and you. How about we consider it a promise between all of us? And Maylee expresses confusion in her facial expression, and Amelia steps down to confirm that, yeah, I'll hold him accountable. You have nothing to worry about there. Turns out Amelia was listening the whole time, and that Subaru had asked her to basically keep an eye out for things in case Maylee got into trouble. And she gives Maylee a hug, basically saying, this place is too small for you to make such big decisions. How about we go ahead and wait until we get out into bigger places, and we're gonna be here to support you. Maylee expresses that she doesn't want to forget about Elsa, and Subaru says, well, that's fine. Of course you don't want to forget about somebody that you care about, but maybe don't copy exactly everything that she does. And he pats her head and just shows that he cares. And then it cuts to the dining room area where it seems like basically everybody was in on this to some extent. Rom gives at least a little bit of praise for having actually succeeded in this plan, and Aridna basically says, like, hey, don't take her prickly side to be completely the truth. She was beside herself with worry, and of course Rom reprimands her, and they have just a little bit of banter, but it's just nice and fun there. And of course Beatrice was worried too, expressing that she really didn't want to let this slide, but she trusted Subaru enough to handle it, so she allowed it to slide in that particular instance. And that's when Shala chimes in, basically asking Subaru if he was sure. After all, Maylee did try to kill him, which of course he immediately dissuades. Maylee has already been punished, but she turned out this way because nobody taught her why she was being punished. So he's gonna try to do that from here on out. He also expresses that he's gonna need everybody's help in being a good role model for Maylee, even Shala, which gets Shala all excited for the idea of being a role model alongside her master, and she gives Meili a big old hug, I suppose, and Julius expresses that means that she must not be a problem now, and Subaru is like, of course, you and I are also going to have to show that we're not spineless, and Julius is like, yep, it's a matter of appearances then, understood. And Subaru basically just says, we have to be her fatherly role model since we're the only two here that can do that. And Julius agrees before the scene moves on, going to the title card from now on. But we get to see basically an after title card scene discussing what they're gonna do next. Subaru states that he wants to set aside trying to figure out why he lost his memories for right at this moment in time, simply because we know that there is a connection between him losing his memories and the tower. So logic deduces that they will probably find the reason anyway along the way, and they might as well not waste time just focusing on getting his memories back. Everybody reluctantly agrees in some form or capacity, and Emilia states that while she's okay with it, she would like Subaru every once in a while to let her worry about him the most. And then Julius asks what exactly is the plan then from here. And Subaru basically states, well, we need to know Reed's weakness, right? So why don't we all look for Reed's Book of the Dead in the Taygeta archive, before we get the ending theme, ending the episode proper. So that brings us to what I think of the episode, and I think it was great overall. Not like the best episode in the world, but nothing really wrong with it either, just nothing too crazy going on. We got to see, the perpetrator and the reality of that, and Subaru basically dedicating his mindset to fixing everything going on in the tower rather than focusing on anything else, and hopefully we'll get his memories back along the way. And yeah, this episode was just good overall. We got to see a bunch of emotional growth for characters, and while sure we didn't have any crazy action or lore drops, the emotional growth is just as important. We need to see these characters grow, and it's nice to see Meili be added to that list of characters that are more rounded out and better understood. Other than that, there really isn't a whole lot for me to say about the episode itself without getting into some of the cut content here. So I guess we'll just go ahead and jump right into the cut content. This is going to be a little bit simpler than normal because there isn't a whole lot here. So, the cut content. The first thing is immediately apparent is that another Shadow Garden scene is cut. A little disappointing that we just finally got a Shadow Garden scene at the start of this season and they're not continuing that. However, this Shadow Garden scene was very short and isn't necessarily necessary, I guess. So it's not too big of a deal that it was cut, just mainly Subaru struggling with his identity and a little bit further of reinforcing that after the events of Volume 23. So that would have been somewhat redundant, I suppose. After Subaru tells the dining hall that he had lost his memories, Shala does the whole again thing like we had mentioned in the past. And Subaru wants to dig into that a little bit, saying, did your master really just go around losing his memories that often? And Shala said, it happened a lot. When I greeted you in the morning, you'd say, who are you again? I don't remember you. I don't know you. Like I was a random fling. And Subaru states that, that doesn't really sound like simple teasing, but it's hard to tell. This is mainly just reiterating that Flugel lost his memories a lot, which I just find interesting. When Meili is trying to see if Subaru's going to kill her in revenge, Meili says, you can say that, but it's hard to believe you. What do you want then, mister? Do you think it won't feel real if you can't feel it yourself? And we see that Meili wraps her hands around her neck and sticks out her tongue. And this kind of makes Subaru panic for a second, thinking that maybe Meili remembered that she was murdered, but obviously, of course, she did not. So the strategy for saving Meili, or the handling the Meili situation in general, was a whole lot different in the light novel than it was in the anime. In the anime, pretty much we see Emilia helping out, and that's about it, but Subaru basically makes it sound like everybody was still aware of it. Emilia freezes Subaru's whip to the edge when he falls, and I actually really like that version, mainly because in the light novel, somehow Subaru just latched his whip onto the stairs. It explicitly says that Subaru's arm was wrapped around her waist as he clenched his jaw and adjusted his left hand's grip on the whip currently tied to the stairs, which in such a quick situation, I just don't see how Subaru could have actually done that. So the magic part of it's really cool, but what I like about the light novel is how basically almost everybody was in on the plan and played a role in protecting Meili, which I really like. We had Beatrice and Shala was watching from below if in case Meili did fall, and same with Subaru. I'm not really sure what purpose Shala would have served there really, but at least when it came to Beatrice, she could have used her magic to manipulate like gravity or whatever, which would have allowed them to fall safely. So they basically had a cushion there. And Julius kept watch for Meili's witch beasts in case she ended up actually going on full rampage mode. So that's something that's kind of cool that I really liked, is the coordination between almost the entire group to handle Meili in a way that was reasonable and protect her as a group, which works well for the whole role model thing that Subaru then follows up with. Emilia also expresses that she was really happy that Subaru actually went and asked her directly for help, since Subaru doesn't really do that. And, you know, of course we saw in season 3 that he tried to not ask for Emilia to help, but then she ended up overhearing him anyway and was like, no, I'm helping, and he relented. So seeing him actually go out and ask her for help is a really nice thing and a little bit of growth for Subaru, even if he has lost his memories. And the final bit of cut content that I want to touch on is that basically Ridna makes a comment about whether he has his memories or not, he's still Natsuki Subaru either way. Considering what she was trying to do, I don't think that's the right way to put it, but I guess memories or no memories, your essence is the same, eh? You really are something, Natsuki. And the reason I bring this one up particularly is this continues to dispel the notion that Flugel and Subaru are the same person. We see repeatedly that Subaru basically says the creator of the tower, aka Flugel, is a nasty person. And we see a lot of evidence in general that Flugel and Subaru aren't quite the same. Of course, we see that Shala says that Master, aka Flugel, lost his memories all the time, but if, even when losing his memories, Subaru is not this nasty person, then it's kind of dispelling that notion that this theory in the community has latched onto for so long. And I just find that really interesting, and I don't want to get too much into it, but I find it very important because the Subaru is Flugel theory was very strong in the ReZero community as a whole, and has been, and hasn't really gone away. And it even re-sprouted as this season was coming to existence, essentially, as it's been airing. Anime onlys have even picked up on this, trying to say that Subaru and Flugel probably were the same person. But even here, we're seeing that that's being more so dispelled. So, just something to keep in mind, that maybe don't latch too hard onto that theory, seeing as even since basically the proper introduction, I guess you could call it, of more Flugel stuff, Tappei has been dispelling the notion that they're the same person ever since then. Other than that, though, there's not much to say here. I kind of got to get back into the swing of things about talking about the episodes, but overall, I feel like there wasn't much to say here, other than the episode was pretty good, music choices were pretty good as well, and that, you know, the emotional payoff on Meili's character and Rom's specifically was a very, very nice thing that we finally got to see. We got growth for two characters that have really, really, really needed it, especially Meili. Rom needed it to an extent with all the hate that she's been getting this season, but Meili has, you know, not really done a whole lot yet, so her finally being able to get emotional growth is really, really nice to see. So, overall, this episode was fun, and that's really all I got to say about it. I'm pretty much rambling at this point. But anyway, like I said, I'm still in the process of moving, so it might take me longer to put these videos out. It might not entirely sure. I'm going to try to keep the same workflow as best I can, but I can't make any promises there. So I guess all I have left to say is thank you all for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next one, and I will hopefully see you guys sometime next week for the next ReZero episode. Bye-bye.